intro, but stop the music! Okay. I love that. It's really cool. It's like a throne song. Let me see if I can get you the name. Hold on a second. Claim of Thrones is an awesome song. But I want to move on right away because we have a lot to cover in this premiere, along with actually sewing on this incredible 301A that I took from the ashes and brought it out as a brand new Phoenix. It's a fabulous, fabulous machine that I prepared for my friend Roz out of the great state of Michigan. So hold on just a second. If you're seeing spots before your eyes, you do not need to go to an optometrist or an ophthalmologist. You're okay. All right? Just relax, just relax. I'm going to stop the spots in any second now. In about, 2 seconds. 1 second. Almost. Yes. Oh, wow. Let's get some lights on. Let's get some lights on. Okay. So behind this partition, you've seen this happen before. Behind this partition is a really cool 301A that I prepared for Roz. It was actually a first edition of the 301A in the very first series of 301As that came out of Anderson, South Carolina. Do any of you remember that the year that the 301A was introduced? If you remember, then type it in the chat and you'll get an A in the class for today. The first year the 301A was introduced, again, it was produced at Anderson, South Carolina, not at Elizabethport, New Jersey, where the other series of 301s came out a little bit earlier. That's the biggest hint I'll give you. A little bit earlier than the 301A. So type that in the chat if you know, while I find another piece of music. Actually, we'll listen to the rest of that other piece of music. I'll just turn it way down. And yes, I decided to go with cinematic as a theme for the music today, because I wanted to be a little bit dramatic as we do this unveiling of Roz's incredible museum quality heirloom piece 301A. Now, if you didn't get it yet, then you're not going to get an A in the class today for this question at least. The first year that the 301A was introduced, 1953. 1953! So that is the year that Roz's 301A was born in Anderson, South Carolina. And that's because it starts with its serial number with the letters N-A. N-A, Nancy Apple. Nancy Apple, that doesn't make a lot of sense, but you know what I mean! So her serial number on her machine starts with NA, which was the very first series of 301As that were made in Anderson, South Carolina. It's a first edition, folks. It's like getting a first edition book. And when Roz reached out to me and said, Scott, I want you to source for me a real special 301A, I searched high and low all around the globe, and I finally found this treasure piece of a 301A from the first edition of machines that were made in Anderson, South Carolina. Yeah! So, Roz, you got a first edition 301A. A first edition from 1953. All right, second impromptu question opportunity. What year did they stop making the 301A in Anderson, South Carolina? Type it into the chat. The last year they made 301As in Anderson, South Carolina at that Singer plant. Boy, I'd like to visit that place, wouldn't you? I think there's still a little bit of something standing there, and if there is, I'm going to find it. Just like I did that cabinet factory down in South Bend, Indiana. It wasn't real clear where that place was located, but I'll tell you one thing. I scoured that city. I reached out to the locals and I said, hey, where is that plant? And a couple of folks kind of pointed in a general direction. So I started driving that way, and yep, we found it. Not only did we find it, we actually walked the hallways of that building. So if you haven't looked at those videos yet, posted on the channel underneath a playlist of my incredible journey, my adventure to South Bend, Indiana, you got to check it out. You got to check it out. But back to the task at hand, and that is Dr. Singer and the old Singer repairman have set this machine up for me. I think they plugged it in. I hope they did. And got it all set up. Before we do that, though, I got to show you a little bit about my journey in getting this machine ready for Roz. But first of all, I got to clean my screen. Good gravy. My screen has all kinds of greasy fingerprints because it's a workshop along with being a playroom. And I got to get some of the grease off of the screen. I think it's probably grease from the other day when I was going through that Husqvarna Viking motor at 1.5 amp. I posted that on Facebook. If you're a Facebooker, you can kind of check it out. All right, first of all, I got to get my screen clean enough you can actually see what's on the screen, I hope. Man, oh man, that was yucky. That was yucky. Okay, so let me see here. I've got this fancy fingerprint thing on here, but if I'm working in the workshop and my fingers get dirty, guess what? That fingerprint scanner thing on the phone does not work too well. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you these pictures on my phone as best as I can. As a matter of fact, whoops, I just hit the wrong button. Don't you hate when that happens? Okay, so these are some beginning shots. Let me kind of come on this shot a little bit, see if this will work. Yeah, that light is going to give us a lot of trouble, isn't it? Let's see, let me shut this off. Yeah, that's a little bit better. So here's kind of the beginnings of it. I'm going to keep touching the screen because my phone goes into this power save thing. So I've got the machine on its side. I'm starting to examine it, start to go through it. This is shortly after it arrived at the workshop. And I did an unboxing on it as well, if you decide you want to check that out. So kind of go through these shots, just give you an idea. Had to replace the feet on the bottom. They were all crumbly. That happens quite often on these Slant-O-Matic machines. They used a certain grade rubber, and it does not last. It just doesn't. Taking all the parts off the machine, because ultimately I knew I was going to have to take it to my paint shop and get the painting done on it, which we'll look at as well on the laptop. But you can see all the parts you have to take off. Now take a look at the quality of that paint patina. It's really rough. It's not just chalky, but it's in a real rough state. Kind of get a closer look at it there. Got it all chipped along the light. You see up here on the top of the machine as well, it's in a real rough condition. The bed looks rough as well. We'll see other shots of that where the decaling is pretty much gone on the machine. Here we're looking at near the faceplate area. Upper tension obviously has been pulled out in preparation for the conditioning work that has to be done to the patina and getting it ready for painting and new decals and all of that. Look at that bed. And here you can see along the edges, the decaling all the way along the front edge is pretty much gone. And that was not going to work as far as being an heirloom piece for Roz in that condition. Let me shut one other light off. Hold on just a second. That one might help as well. We'll shut off several lights while we're trying to look at these, just so they're a little bit more clear. So here again, you can look at the patina decal, pretty much absent. Another shot. You can see all the varnishing buildup, and there was a little bit of rust mitigation to do on the machine as well. See, there you can look inside of the faceplate area. You can see some of that, just not incredibly pitted, but just some rust mitigation that had to be dealt with on the machine. Again, just not anywhere close to what you would consider to be an heirloom quality piece. It just wasn't. See if I can turn it like that, if that's going to be better or worse. Yeah, it's going to be worse. And along with, like I say, don't buy a machine, don't pursue a machine because it's pretty. You got to deal with the mechanics of the machine as well. So part of that I'm doing right here with a real deep cleaning, maintenance and adjustments on Roz's 301A as well. And this machine, because of the way it's set up with a vertically mounted motor with interlacing worm gears, there's a lot of deep cleaning and maintenance that has to be done on this machine to get it ready to sew. Here I'm trying to chip away some of the buildup in there. And there's the main worm gear off the output shaft on the vertically mounted motor. The 301A, the 301, and a number of the other Slantomatics come with a 0.54 amp motor, which peaks at right around 0.6 amps. So you're looking at a machine output with direct drive that is equivalent to a 201-2 or a 1591. That's a lot of power, folks. That's a lot of power. And again, with the 301A and the 301, you're looking at a machine that only weighs about 5 pounds more than the featherweight 221. So it just gives you an idea of why this particular machine was so popular when it was introduced in 1953. So here again, you can just see the for lack of a better word, the degradation of the paint. It's a combination of clear coat being worn down, varnishing, just all kinds of yucky stuff that had to be dealt with. More yucky stuff to be dealt with there. You can see as well on the side of the balance wheel. And just the chipping away of the paint. Some people would say well loved, and that's oftentimes true when you see a machine that the decals and or the paint is worn down, but it also can be neglect or even abuse as well. And this being an original owner machine, it was a combination of all three of those things. They didn't pick the best environment to store the machine in as well when it was no longer being used by the family. Now here we're looking at the motor on the bottom of the machine. You have to take off the drip pan on the bottom, and here you can see the nomenclature plate that tells you the amperage and output of the machine and peak RPMs and all the other good stuff. More varnishing, a little bit of rust to mitigate. We're looking at the bottom of the machine now. You can see there was quite a bit of deep cleaning and servicing that had to be done to the machine. Quite a few adjustments as well with these Slantomatics. Now here we've got the worm gears on the bottom of the machine, one of the clusters of worm gears, and you can see not only are they dirty, but they're also bone dry. And that's where I use my special pink grease that I concocted in the workshop that does a better job than even the original Singer lubricant that they used on the machines when they were getting ready to ship them out of the factory. Again, just everything has to be surgically approached on a machine in the workshop, down to the very bolts and screws. I go through a process of readying them as well. And here we're looking at the bottom side of the machine. On the right side underneath this panel is the motor, vertically mounted motor. We're looking at the pitman arms and other components on the bottom. All of those have to be serviced as well. And when I'm putting screws and bolts back into the machine, I always use a torque approach so that those are not over torqued in the machine if the machine has to be serviced at some point. And also, just so it doesn't strip the heads off of those screws. Metal gets brittle over time, so you have to treat it with a gentle touch. And here we're beginning to take the bolts out that hold that plate in that'll give us access to that vertically mounted direct drive motor. And here you can see we've gotten, whoops, you could see, where did I go? Hold on a second. We're getting there. We're getting there. There we go. Now we're back in the correct sequence. So again, I'm removing that that motor. You can see it's a long shaft motor. It's a very complicated motor to service. It takes probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours just to service this motor properly, to get it optimized. Two of the electrical contacts that plug into the motor, there you can see they're dangling now that we have the motor out. Servicing to the worm gears. Additional service points on the bottom of the machine. Trying to look at that picture a little bit closely. Oh, I see. Okay, we've moved bottom of the machine, now the top of the machine, and now we're looking at the well for the upper tension. Sometimes hard to tell on this little screen what we're looking at, but you can see even inside of that well, which, again, if you take it to your local service center, they're never ever going to deal with something like this. If that upper tension doesn't fall out, they're not going to do any deep cleaning service or stripping of the varnishing and buildup that's on the inside of there that can affect how that mechanism works. All of that for me is taken apart, and I deep clean and service it. And there you can see even behind where that normally mounts, there's quite a bit of buildup on there as well. And here we're looking at the light assembly, and you can see just again the chipping and the pitting of that paint patina, which definitely is not going to qualify or meet the standards of what Roz and I would be looking for to give her an heirloom piece for her family. So we're going to be focusing on that eventually at the paint shop. Here again, you can just look at that paint surface. There's no way, I believe in preservation, but preservation is something, there's certain points where paint finishes will get to a point where it's just, you're not going to be able to return that luster and certainly not get it to an heirloom quality level when you're working with paint like this that has fallen into such disrepair. So here I'm tearing apart the light assembly, and again the approach I use is surgical, so it's cleaning copper contacts inside of the light assembly where the bulb would plug in. It's disassembling certain parts of it for deep cleaning as well, because all of this is part of the electrical servicing for the machine as well, plus behind here as well where the light mounts. And of course cleaning the lens for the light as well, because it doesn't do any good to put an LED bulb in there if the light lens is filthy. So here we're starting to focus on the motor and making sure that all of those components here on the inside of the motor, all of those components that are part of the electrical field are going to be cleaned and optimized and stripped of any varnishing that are going to adversely affect how that motor would function. More deep cleaning and more deep cleaning. And there you can get a real clear picture of just where we started out with that paint patina in bed. And there's no way to preserve decaling like this unless you wanted it to stay in that rough state, and then you could certainly condition the paint to receive a new clear coat, but it would never have that completed heirloom look that Roz was looking for. See how rough that is? And again, this is not just that the machine was well loved, it's also that the machine was stored in an environment that allowed this paint finish to be compromised. So you can see here as well, all the way across the front. Overall, the medallion, the branding mark of Singer in the 301A, those needed some cleanup and restoration as well, but not nearly as bad as I've seen on some machines. Here again, you just kind of look at the chalkiness of the paint. And when it gets to this stage, it really is that the clear coat has been compromised and the varnishing and the other buildup has actually worked its way into the paint finish underneath that clear coat. So there's no longer any protection for that paint. That paint is compromised, and that's where I had to take this machine all the way down to a bare metal state nearly and build it back up again. You know, just like a phoenix being put in the fire and then coming out of the ashes renewed. That was the goal. So here kind of a distance shot of it. You can see, not real clear, but you can just kind of see it's just a flat looking machine. It doesn't have any pizzazz to it. And here you can see kind of the crumbling as I tried to remove the old feet on the bottom of the machine. It just basically disintegrates. And you've got to, build it back up again with new feed and give it a good firm foundation so that it doesn't vibrate when it's sewing etc. Here again, you just see the swirling in the paint. Again, we're looking at the actual paint surface. There's no clear coat left in that area. It's pretty much gone. Again, the top of the machine, you're looking at, again, just a chalky appearance. That has nothing to do with it. That's a modified Husqvarna Viking foot controller to increase ventilation so that it doesn't overheat when you're doing free motion quilting. That was a project that I did quite a bit of work with Annette down in Cypress, Texas. So that kind of gives you a vision of where the machine started on my phone. And I appreciate your patience kind of looking at those smaller pictures. And now we're going to look at the bigger pictures of where this 1953 301A, had 401 stuck in my head, looking at these bubbles. Bubbles will totally mess with your mind, man, totally mess with your mind. So now we're going to look at some of the work I did in my paint shop. And yes, I do have a paint shop separate from the workshop. I have to drive a little bit of a distance to get to it. It's an area that I lease, and also have a good friend that does work of his own in that paint space as well. So we kind of tag team projects sometimes, and it's kind of neat. It's kind of neat to share that his work is different than my work, but a lot of common ground when you're doing detailed restoration paint work like this. So here you can see I'm doing some touch work on the machine that requires a very special brush, working around some of the points that you can't do a spray finish type approach to it because the space is too tight. And you can see pretty much on my face there, I am intense, kind of like that coffee mug that I have had on my workbench for some time, and I just gave it as a gift to a family that came to pick up a machine. The one about, if you see my seam ripper out, now is not a good time. If you see a look like that on Scott's face, it's probably not a good time to interrupt his train of thought, because he's really, really intense right about now. And I don't remember which way these are going, so is that the correct direction? Let me just see here. And I don't remember which direction these go. We'll go this direction, and I'll circle around if I have to get them back. So you can see here, there's hours of preparation work in getting to this stage of the restore process. Again, taking the machine down to a near bare metal state, getting that metal ready to receive commercial auto grade type paint, and then building that surface up. It's not a single layer, obviously. There's multiple layers of paint that have to be built onto that machine, and then through each stage of that, there's a delay and a baking process to harden that so you can build onto the next layer. And then eventually getting it to a point where you can add the new decals, as I did in this case. There's that intense look again. That intense look on Scott's face of don't bother me right now. Now is not a good time. Now here on the rear of the machine, again, part of that brushing process as I'm putting fresh decals on. Decals are thinner than rice paper, and you only have a certain window of time to get them positioned after they've been cut out using, really what I use surgical scissors, and I use surgical grade scalpels to cut these out so that they just have a real nice factory finish look to them. I've seen other folks do the work, and it's pretty shoddy because they leave too big of a field of the decal surface around the outer edges, and it's evident. So this process here is a timed event where I'm really trying to work quickly to get this decal that goes on the rear of the machine positioned perfectly vertically, horizontally. I sometimes will use actually a mechanical caliper to make sure that it's not just eyeballed positioned right, but it's positioned right according to the original specs of how they would have placed the decal on at the factory. And there's a frontal shot. Again, just additional paint work in different stages. And it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to go from the beginning point of bare metal all the way to the finished product. About 2 to 3 weeks. And there you can see some of those brushes that I use to reach those real tight spaces, but also to help to apply and to position the decals on the machine as well. We're probably at about stage 2 right there, the second layer of paint. And you can see already, even without the clear coat being applied, it's already starting to get a real nice luster to it, compared to that original chalky, milky look to it. Let's see, that may be full circle. Let me have to go back the other way again. Yeah, and you can see a lot of masking involved as well. We've come full circle. I think we have. There's a top-down shot. Some of these look like they're different, so I'll just keep clicking until we run into something totally different. Yeah, these are different. There's that look again. Don't bother me. No calls, no texts. No Facebook Messenger. Just let me do my thing. I'm in the zone. I'm in the zone. And there's that center decal. At this stage, the final coats of clear coat have been applied to the paint. There's a waiting period after that's completed. And now I'm beginning to apply decals. You can see I've already applied the decal on the front end of the machine, and now I'm putting that center one in. The center one is so tricky to get right because there's no reference point. You've got to get it positioned just perfectly between where the needle would be and the pillar, and then from front to back you have to get it perfectly positioned as well. So it's really a tricky decal, and when you're dealing with something that has a setting point on it once it's applied to the paint surface, you've got to spin your wheels super quick in order to figure things out and to get it where you want it. Otherwise, you run into some major problems with trying to reposition that decal after it's begun to settle into the clear coat. That one I think we've seen before. You can see all the masking across the top as well, because the top of the lid for the 301A is painted separately as well. There I look a little bit more relaxed. Maybe not. There you can see the rear of the machine. On the 301A there's basically 2 decal sets. The one that you saw me working on before, and then the one that goes on the rear of the pillar. And that's also a real tricky one to position just right as well. Starting to really get that finish where I want it. It's starting to look really, really good. And working more in the decal application, you can see we're done here, 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 but we don't have that long decal in place that runs along that rear of the extension bed, or the workspace bed I should say, not the extension bed. More detailed work. I think we're going in circles at this point. Pretty sure. Yeah, we've seen that one before. So at any rate, it just gives you an appreciation for uh, the length of time it takes to do this. It's not a one and done type thing where you'll start in the morning and be done in the afternoon if it's going to be done properly. It takes weeks to get this done, and that's with steady work. And obviously in the workshop I've got multiple projects going on at the same time. So it's kind of like step towards one machine, step away, step towards one machine, step away, step towards one machine, step away. And it's yeah, that one I really like. That one I like because you can really see that middle decal where I'm trying to work that into the perfect position before it sets. Yeah, so we made it. We made it around as far as I can tell. And this was part of a Facebook post that was done. See if this closes eventually. We'll be able to see the Facebook post date. Maybe it's not going to close ever. What month was that? That was done in, holy Jiminy Crickets. That was done in December of 2020. December of 2020. So that was done, golly, let's see, January, February, March. This is March of 2021, right? Yeah. So that was done like 3 months ago. Those pictures in the paint shop. So if that's the first time you're seeing them, that's because you don't do Facebook. Or because you don't have a good memory, one of the two. It's hard to say. So, but well, let me get the workshop lights back on again. We'll kind of change our camera shot over here. And let's finally see if we can unveil Roz's machine. You've seen pictures. You've seen the before, some of those on my phone. You've seen the shots of the progress steps at the paint shop. And now we're going to actually see the machine, which I think that's the reality, isn't it? And that gives you more of a dimensional feeling for the machine and where it's at now. So I'm going to get some more music on, and then I'm going to move Dr. Singer and the Singer Repairman and all the other goody stuff in front of there. And I'll just do a shameless plug real quick. This is a Singer certificate guarantee that I'm going to be sending with Roz's machine. If you follow me faithfully, you probably have seen these before. And this is the original guarantee that Singer would have issued with the machine when it left Anderson, South Carolina. Something to this effect. And so I'm going to be issuing a brand new Singer guarantee with Roz's machine, since it has been the Phoenix that was in the ashes. It came out of the ashes reborn. And so it deserves a brand new beginning with a brand new guarantee as well. And then, of course, a manual. And I do offer these manuals on eBay. They're an original full color reprint of the Singer 301, 301A type manual. And I'm really far away right now, so you're going, we can't see it. But I'll also be giving Roz a manual with the machine as well. And this covers both machines. They're going to have nearly identical setups on them. So it covers those two Slant-O-Matic machines anyway. And then you can see as well, and I showed these on Facebook as well, I've already done some initial sew-offs. Stitch quality is really, really important to Roz. And as she said to me in a private message when I pointed her to this post on Facebook, she said, those stitches that you showed on Facebook, which are these, are to perfection. And at the very bottom row, I was still working on fine-tuning the balance of the tension. That top row is when I felt like we had finally hit that sweet spot. Really, the top two rows are kind of that sweet spot as far as the stitches. But that is, as we joke about often, that is page 34. First edition. Just like this machine is a first edition from 1953. So we're going to be doing more sewing with the machine today, obviously on camera, which is the way I do things. I don't do the still shots only. You know, I don't just show still shots like this and then send the machine off to the customer. I want them to actually see that machine operating on a live premiere like this as well. Isn't that gorgeous? Those are page 34 for sure. For sure! So let me pick out some more music, like I said just a little bit ago, and then we'll do the official unveiling. I'll probably come off the tripod so we can get close to Roz's machine, and then go back up on the tripod to initiate the various confirmation sew-offs. Okay, so let's pick out some more music. And again, I'm doing kind of a cinematic theme today. The first one we heard is called Claim of Thrones. And I'll go all the way to the top. This one has an interesting title. It's called Large Smile Mood. Large Smile Mood. Here we go. All right, Dr. Singer, I'm going to move you to a safe spot, back by Umi. Hopefully my little partition doesn't fall while I move our friends. Official start of the class. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to come off the tripod and we're going to take a real close look at Roz's first edition 301A from 1953. looks a little different. Just a wee bit. All right, I'm going to head over by the needle and we're going to wait for this music to end. Well, that worked out better than I thought as far as the timing of the song. Oh, and I'm going to obviously be wiping the machine off a lot during this premiere. So the first sewing that I'm going to do is going to be on a light cotton polyester blend. And I wanted to start with something light because I don't know the full scope. I know that Roz is a 4th generation quilter, but I don't know the full scope of the type of sewing that Roz is going to be doing with this 301A. So I want to cover a fairly good spectrum of stitch offs during this premiere. Everything from super light, like we're going to start with, all the way to something much, much, much heavier with some of our leather sew-offs as well. So this is obviously a huge piece, much bigger than I need to have. But I thought it would be kind of fun, and maybe I could even change my shot a little bit. I thought it'd be fun to show the maneuverability of this machine as well, and doing one of my classic sewing in the circle things. Of course, I need sewing in a circle music, don't I? So I'm going to widen the shot a little bit so we can see a little bit more of the material as we're sewing it. Right about there, maybe. Pick out another tune. So that was called Large Smile Mood. This one is called Shuttle Pie. Shuttle Pie. Turn this way down. Way down. Because I do want you to listen to Roz's machine. Okay, I think we're ready. I was waiting to see if this music is going to get, you know how sometimes they start out soft and all of a sudden they go boom! See how much more I had to turn it down so it wasn't overly distracting to us. It's not overly distracting to me, but it might be to you, so. Okay. And I'm going to take off a couple of my rings because I don't want to accidentally brush against this beautiful finish. Okay, so let's start super lightweight. Again, just 2 tiny little thin layers with a stiffener of this cotton polyester blend. Here we go. Turn that music down just a little bit further. All right, here we go. Oh, I created a pucker. Oh boy. We're just going to sew right over the pucker. We're going to sew over the pucker a couple of times. Well, the machine did beautifully in feeding that slippery material. But I kind of let it pucker up a little bit, and then we had to kind of sew it down. We weren't going to let it win. We had to kind of sew it down to get it to feed over those feed dogs. So we'll focus on stitch quality, not finished product, that's for sure. Okay, almost got them all clipped. One more to clip here. All right, well, let me get out my stitch off holder, and we'll take a look at these top and bottom. I'm chuckling just because I can see the machine did a fabulous job, but the operator didn't do quite as fabulous a job in keeping the material flat when I was coming across that area near the top. So, oh well. So let's just follow the stitching as best as we're able. And what I'm seeing is page 34, folks. First edition. Again, this is a little bit of a slippery type material. That's why I have the stiffener in between. And even as I'm going around in a circle, I'm really pressing those feed dogs and that standard presser foot to really manage that material. It's done just a fabulous job all the way around. There I had a little, see where I'm kind of battling it there on that little bumpy part where the material puckered up. But this 301A from 1953 just continued to plug ahead and say, all right, Scott kind of missed that a little bit, but we're going to make him look good by laying down stitching that is absolutely brag-worthy. There's our second little cross over that bumpy part. Somebody is really determined trying to call me here. And there's our final ending point right there. So I'm going to come out, we can look at the totality of the stitching. Sorry for that little distraction. I'm trying to get my phone. It's on vibrate, but it's like vibrating and vibrating and shush. So beautiful job. I mean, a beautiful job on laying down just page 34 stitching. Now we're going to turn it over and just take a look at that lock stitch, which thankfully on the back the puckering isn't quite as evident, so it kind of makes it look almost cool. My unintentional effort to get a quilted puckered look for Roz, our 4th generation quilter. And again, we're looking at the lock stitch now, and it's absolutely spot on. We kind of follow it up the hill here. Absolutely beautiful stitching, in spite of my operator error. It just goes to show you when you're working with certain materials, even when you have stiffener, you can still have feed issues if you're not paying close enough attention to keeping that material laying flat and flush. Just trying to follow that track, the second one from the right. I think that's our ending point right there. So the totality of the stitching on this lock stitch is just absolutely spot on. I would say that this is definitely a page 34 when it comes to the quality of the stitching. And if you're brand new to this channel, or if you haven't been paying attention during class, when I make the reference of page 34, it's saying that that is a perfect stitch. And I always say a near perfect stitch because I don't know that there really is such a thing as a perfect stitch. But a stitch that's just drop dead gorgeous. That's what we achieved both with this lock stitch, which again on the lock side it looks a lot better than on the top stitch side on these two very thin layers of cotton polyester blend. But it gives you an idea of a big deal for Roz is she wants to have just perfect straight stitching. She's not into all the bells and whistles, doesn't need a lot of fancy decorative stitches, although those are nice too. But when it comes to her quilting efforts, and again, she's a 4th generation quilter, having a perfect straight stitch is the cat's meow. And that's why I work so diligently, not only to give her a museum quality machine, one that when people look at it, they're going to be like, wow, wow, but also a machine that gets the same wow factor when it's put to work and it sews some of those beautiful quilts that her family has been making for generations. So I'm going to throw this to the back as a definite pass, in spite of my user error in not monitoring that material. I probably wouldn't have had as much of an issue if I had, say, used a roller foot. That might have been a thought. Could have used a roller foot on that, and that would have done a really good job, I think, of pressing that down into the feed dogs and probably causing it to lay a little bit more flat. But at any rate, that's hindsight. That's hindsight. So I'm going to come on the shot a little bit again so we can admire Roz's 301A from 1953. So I don't know that I ever gave the answer. I don't think I did. Maybe I did. But I think I asked you way back at the beginning of this premiere, I said, what was the last year that they made the 301A in Anderson, South Carolina at that Singer plant? What was the last year? And you've had plenty of time to type it in the chat. So if you were the first one to say 1957, then you get an A in the class today. You get a pat on the back, and you've done a fabulous job of knowing your history of this model that was made as a first edition in 1953, like Roz's machine was made in 1953, all the way through 1957. Now I'm going to ask you another super, super tough question. And if you nail this, I'm going to mail you something special if you're the first one to get the answer correct. Okay? And I'm going to give you the answer, sort of. I'm going to sort of give you the answer. Okay? With the Singer 301A, during the course of the time that it was made from 1953 to 1957, were there 185,750 of these models made, or was it 514,250? Type it in the chat, be the first one to type the correct answer, and I'll send you something special. So again, the 301A was made from 1953 to 1957. Roz's machine, again, was the very first series of 301As made in Anderson, South Carolina. It's a first edition machine, along with being an original owner machine. You want to talk about value? You want to talk about heirloom quality? You want to talk about bragging rights? Yeah, Roz has a lot to brag about. So, when that 301A was made from 1953 to 1957, were there 185,750 of them made, or were there 514,250 made? And I'll tell you that one of those is correct, and one of those might apply to the predecessor of the 301A, if that helps you at all. Right? Take a few seconds while I pick out a little bit more music to type in the chat what you think the correct answer is. Again, how many of these were made from 1953 to 1957? So that last song again was called Shuttle Pie, and this next one is called Air Gone, Air Gone. Again, I got it really soft, real soft. Nice stringed instrument there opening it up. And I'm not a string player, so I don't know if that's a violin, a viola. I don't know. Any of you that play violin, maybe you could type in the chat what you think it is. I'll turn it up so you can hear it more easily. Okay, you've had enough time to try to get the answer. So the question was, how many 301As were made in that window of time from 1953 to 1957? The correct answer is, and if you got it right, point it out to me, because this was a real tough question. Although I kind of gave you the answers, you know what I mean? The correct answer was 514,250 301As. The other possible answer I gave you of 185,750 actually applied to the 301 that was introduced in 1952, and it ceased production in 1952. And in that 1 year window, they only made, of the 301s, 185,750. The 301A was on the scene a lot longer, and I should rewind a little bit and say the 301 again was made in Elizabethport, New Jersey, not down in Anderson, South Carolina, where Roz's machine was made as a first edition machine. But again, if you got it right, if you typed in the chat that you felt that the 301A had a full production scale of 514,250 between 1953 and 1957, and you were the first one to type it in there, point it out to me, and I'll send you something special. But now you know as well, if it ever comes up in another quiz on one of the premieres, you were reminded again. I shouldn't say you know now, because I've brought this up before in other premieres. You know again now that the 301 only had 1 year of production in 1952, and they made 185,750 machines. And that's where, when we look at both of these machines, the 301A, this first edition that belongs to Roz, that I specifically and passionately prepared for her, they only made 514,250 over the course of 1953 to 1957. And then you've got the 301, 185,750 made only in that production year of 1952. That's where I always say, all of you featherweight owners are always puffing up and saying how rare your machines are. Blah, 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 blah. They made over 3 million featherweights during the window of time that those featherweights were being made after their introduction at the Chicago World's Fair in 1934. So 3 million featherweights versus the 301A with only 514,250 being made, with the 301 only 185,750 being made. What's really rare? Yeah, I don't even have to do the da 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 dum ba da 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 da. Yeah, I don't even have to do that. Don't even have to do that. You can tell straight away that the Slant-O-Matic 301 series and the 301A series, these machines, for total production group size, are significantly more rare than a featherweight 221. Now the exception comes into play if you say, hold on a second, pal, didn't you tell us that the featherweight convertible, the 222K, that was only made in Kilbowie, Scotland, didn't you tell us that they only made 110,000 of those over the course of 8 years? Yeah, but we're not talking about that. Okay, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. That's absolutely true. The featherweight 222K, the free arm version of the featherweight, the convertible featherweight, as it was also referred to back in the day, was only made in Kilbowie, Scotland over the course of 8 years, and they only made 110,000 of them. So yes, yeah, you want to talk about the Singer Featherweight 222K, okay, you can puff up if you own one of those, but very few people own featherweight 222Ks. I have 2 in the workshop right now. One belongs to me, the other one belongs to my dear friend, Maddie, down in the great state of Florida. Yes, it does. And eventually those machines will be premiered as well. And my 222K, since it wasn't given away during our fundraiser to help out the History Museum down in South Bend, Indiana, I'm going to be offering that machine for sale. So if you got one of those rebate things from the government, don't spend that money. Hang on to it, because you're going to want to keep all your nickels and dimes and throw your hat into the ring to try to scoop up my fully restored 222K. It was only one of 110,000 that were made over the course of 8 years. Maddie's was one of those as well. So we've got some unicorn 222Ks in this workshop right now. That's why we have the alarm on all the time when I'm not here. Yep. All right, so now you know more about this incredible 301A that you're looking at right now from 1953, a first edition 301A made in Anderson, South Carolina. And it's only one of 514,250 that were made during the course of that machine's production life. Again, much, much, much more rare than the Singer Featherweight 221. 1/6 of these 301As was made in comparison to the 3,221,221. Blah! Got to untie my tongue. 221s that were made after the introduction at Chicago World's Fair. Okay, blah, 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 blah. The Darkest Path. Let's put on a little bit more music and do some more sewing with this 301A first edition. All right, let me turn it back down. Turn it back down. I don't know if any of you typed into the chat. I'm not looking at the chat. Whether or not that previous piece called All Gone or Air Gone, All Gone, Air Gone, whether that was a violin or a viola, or it was one of those two. I have no idea. So this is the Darkest Path. The Darkest Path. I'm going to turn it way down. And let's do some more sewing on Roz's amazing first edition 301A. Let's come back down to that presser foot again. Thank goodness I don't have to deal with that super thin material. Roz's machine did a fabulous job, but we're not going to go there anymore. Let's move on. So what I'm going to sew next now is some denim. I'd like to do some denim next. And remind me, we can always walk around this machine as well. And I'll point out some of the unique features on it, like the fact that unlike the Featherweight 221, this 301A also has a feed dog drop on it as well, which you can access right underneath the fold down bed on the left side of the machine. But what we're going to sew right now is 4 layers of heavy grade denim. 4 layers. And I'm only using a lightweight needle on this Slant-O-Matic today, on this 301A. So I'm not going to be pushing this machine quite as far as it could go if we went with a heavier gauge needle, a larger size needle. This is only a size 75 in here today. And let me see, I believe it's an embroidery style needle. Yes, it is. It's an embroidery needle, size 75, which is the equivalent in the U.S. sewing circles of a size 11. Size 11, size 75 European. So let's buzz around. We're going to kind of go down and around on 4 layers of heavy grade denim. And I'll turn that music even down a little bit further. All right, here we go. Actually, I didn't have to turn it down at all. It ended. How convenient was that? All right, here we go. Yeah, I sewed pretty straight on that. Yay! All right, let's turn and make the corner, and then we'll go down to the finish line. Listen to this motor run. Listen to this motor run. Matter of fact, I'll even shut my heater off. Total silence in the workshop. Here we go. Down to the finish line. Here we go. 4 layers of heavy grade denim. I don't know why I'm whispering. I have no idea why I'm whispering right now, but I am. Here we go. I'm not going to close the box. Not going to close the box today. Not on this. I'm still whispering. Okay. I'm going to turn my heater back on. It's warmer today. It's supposed to hit a peak of almost 50 degrees. But down in the workshop, it tends to be a little bit cooler. Sometimes you've seen my red hands as an indication of that through the winter time as I was doing premieres. So I'm not going to complain about the temp in here today. It's actually pretty comfortable. All right, so let's look at the top stitch on these 4 layers of heavy grade denim first, and then we'll turn it over and look at that lock stitch. Again, I'm using a size 75, which is a size 11 needle. And it's designed specifically for embroidery style sewing. I've never used this type of needle before, so I wanted to give it a try. So I'm not going to talk because I'll jiggle the camera. We'll look at these stitches. Roz, if you agree that that is a page 34 stitch, only Roz, type it in the chat. That's the privilege of being the owner. Sometimes you get to do things that everybody else can't do. Okay, now the rest of you can now, if you'd like, can now type it in the chat that if you feel that that's a page 34, in other words, a near perfect top stitch, then type it in the chat. Everyone else, Roz had the first opportunity. Now the rest of you can type in the chat if you feel that that is a page 34 stitch. And I'm going to get a drink of water while I put on a little bit more music. And this is called Before I Go. Before I Go. I've got lemonade, but I think I'm going to drink water. Probably make my throat less tickly. It's a pretty piano piece, isn't it? Okay, well, I think it's page 34, and I'm guessing that most of you would agree with that. So I'm going to turn this around now. We're going to look at that lock stitch. If I don't bump it, we're going to look at it. So now we're looking at the lock stitch through 4 layers of heavy grade denim. I'm going to kind of start up here. Kind of go backwards this time. I'm looking for my stitch. There it is. Oh, it's kind of underneath the edge there. Right next to the tuft. Well, again, I would invite Roz to type into the chat if she feels that that is a page 34 lock stitch. Give her just a few seconds to do that, and then the rest of you can jump in behind her and tell me whether or not you think that that is a brag-worthy page 34 lock stitch as well. All right, everybody can jump in at this point. If you feel it's page 34, type it in the chat. I certainly do. So I'm going to throw these 4 layers of heavy grade denim to the rear as well with our first sew-off that we did. Just lightly wipe over the finish. So what I'm going to sew next is some of this vegan leather. I'm going to go down and around on this stuff. And this is the same material. It's a combination of leather and vinyl. It's the same material that I sewed off camera, that I posted the pictures on Facebook. So if you're a Facebooker, you've seen this material. I actually showed it to you at the beginning of this premiere. You've seen this machine sew this material already, at least the aftermath of it. So let me buzz around on this, and then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to be sewing a single layer of genuine elk hide with this 301A. Again, it's got a 0.6 amp motor, vertically mounted, gear to gear, the same size motor that's in the 201-2, the Rolls-Royce of Singers, the same motor size that is inside of the Singer 1591. Both of those potted machines, also gear-to-gear machines as well. So, but the tricky thing about this material, and I've talked about this numerous times since I've introduced this material to you, not the fact that it's considered vegan leather, but it's a mix of that leather and the vinyl. And vinyl inherently tries to mess around with stitch quality. It inherently tries to cause you to skip stitches. Especially the harder you work that needle, the more dull that needle gets, the more likely you are to have an event like that. So we'll see how this machine does. Hopefully I can get through all of the sew-offs I plan using the same needle, and then of course I'll replace it with a brand new needle before I ship it off to Michigan to go to Roz. Okay? Alright, so again, listen to this machine operate. Only a single layer of this vegan style leather, but it's tricky stuff because of that vinyl factor in it. Here we go. Okay, for my box closers, I am going to be kind, and I'm going to close the box. And I literally actually closed it this time. Sometimes I'm like almost closed, but not completely. Almost kind of like I'm teasing our box closer friends, the ones that send me notes about when I do a down and around, if I don't close the box, I will sometimes get nasty grams from these folks. I don't know, they just feel like the box needs to be closed. So, all right, more power to them. More power to our box closers. So let me set this up on our stitch off holder. That came from Maddie down in Florida. And we'll see what you think of these stitches on this tricky vegan style leather. Combination of leather and vinyl. So that one was called Before I Go. The next one is called, this is going to be a wild one, if the title indicates anything, it's called Raging Streets. Raging Streets. Oh yeah, we're raging. I feel raged. Or enraged. Yeah, one of the two. Alright, so here's our vegan style leather. We'll start on the top and kind of walk around it. Just going to turn it a little bit more towards the camera. And actually that was convenient to be able to do that, because now you can look at the edge of that material and you'll see the grain of it on the back as well. You can see that there's genuine leather incorporated into this material, but look at the sheer thickness of this. That's where some of you initially might have been saying, just a single layer, that's it? I'm talking about 3 to 4 ounces of vegan leather, folks. Leather vinyl blend. And beyond that, the goal of a premiere is not to show the max of what the machine can do. It's to demonstrate stitch quality and the versatility of the machine. So that's what we're shooting for during this premiere. All right, let's look at these stitches first of all. Beautiful stitching. Let's come out and look at the totality of stitching. All right, so Roz, you already know where I'm going with this. If you feel like on this super tricky leather vinyl mix material, vegan leather as I affectionately call it, if you think that this is a page 34 stitch, go ahead and type that in the chat. And then once you see Roz type it in the chat, go ahead and jump in behind her if you agree that it's a page 34 stitch. I'm definitely leaning that way. This is some beautiful, beautiful stitching. Just got to turn it a little bit more towards the camera. Actually, I turned it too far now. Actually taking it off the stand. You know what? Hold on a second. Trying to get the right angle with the camera is sometimes just really super tricky. Let's do it this way. I'm going to go on with a straight on shot. That was a fun song, wasn't it? I'm trying to get the right angle on this. Oh gosh, this is tricky stuff. Ugh. I'm going to lay it down. That may be the best angle for it, because the way this the texturing on this material kind of just plays with it. Blur. Now that left side I can see clearly through this little screen of mine. And the reason I'm taking a little bit extra time to do this is out of any of the materials we're sewing during this premiere, this is probably the trickiest material to work with because of that vinyl factor. So I have no idea what you wrote in the chat. I would definitely give that a page 34. Let's turn it around now and look at that lock stitch. Let's not look at it. Let's look at it like that. All right, I'm going to try to get it close, but I'm trying to keep it from blurring. So this is now our lock stitch. Across the top row, we can see it nice and clear. Okay, so I'm going to come out on the shot. We'll look at the totality of the stitching now. So if you'll give Roz the opportunity to post first, whether or not she thinks that that's a page 34 lock stitch, and then once you see her post, go ahead and jump in right behind her if you're in agreement that this is a page 34 lock stitch. I certainly do. And again, from my seat, I can probably see it even more clearly than you can. And again, we're talking about a leather vinyl mix, folks. It's very tricky stuff. Very tricky stuff to work with. And I could certainly add more layers to this, but again, the goal is not to push the machine to the max. It's to demonstrate stitch quality. Okay, all right, we focused at this enough. I'm going to drive you all crazy. All right, so let me get back up on the tripod. Plug the camera back in. And then you can post as you see accordingly as to this vegan style leather sew off that I just did. Okay, there we go. We got direct power again. Meantime, we'll look at Roz's machine from a distance. So that was Raging Streets, which I thought was kind of cool. The next one we're going to do now is called Walk into Paradise. Walk into Paradise. I'll throw this to the rear. So what sew-off should I do next? I think I'm going to do the, like I talked about doing, I'm going to do the genuine elk hide. I'm going to do the genuine elk hide next. And again, I'm not using a heavier needle like I sometimes will. This is only a size 75, which equates to a size 11 again machine needle. And it's designed specifically for embroidery, not for sewing leather like this. So I'm kind of pushing the boundaries like I usually do by number one, sewing genuine elk hide using this type of needle. Certainly not for the factor, can the machine handle it from a power standpoint? That's a no-brainer. Again, it has the same size motor and the same size drive system, same type of drive system as the Singer 201-2 or the Singer 1591. But look at again what we're going to be sewing here. Look at that from the side. About 5 ounces of genuine elk hide. That's some intense stuff, folks. And I'm using only a size 11 needle designed for embroidery, so we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I'm not going to hold my breath on this one because this is really, I'm kind of operating outside the parameters of what I probably should be, but that's okay. You're used to seeing that on this channel all the time. So, all right, so let's try this elk hide now. Single layer, about 5 ounces. And we'll see how Roz's 301A does with this. I have no doubt it's going to be able to get through it easily. But what kind of stitch will it lay down considering we're sewing an incredibly hard to get through chemically processed elk hide using an embroidery needle that's only a size 11. All right, let's see what happens. I know you hate that when I say that. Let's see what happens, but oh well. Here we go. No struggle, no pause, no difficulty. All right. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let's do the next line of stitching. Taking it nice and easy. Spin this around, we'll go down to the finish line. All right, here we go. Boy, I really narrowed that down quite a bit. All right, single layer of genuine elk hide, sewing it with a size 75, which equates to a size 11 embroidery needle. And you were able to hear the machine, no music playing. You were able to hear this first edition 301A take its time and just mow steadily through a chemically processed leather like this stuff. This stuff is absolutely off the charts when it comes to how difficult it is to get through for any machine, let alone when you're using a machine that is sewing with a needle designed for embroidery work. I know, insane. It's what we do here. It's a playroom, for goodness sakes. All right, let's take a look at this stitching. I'm trying to look at my camera angle and try to get it lined up as best as I can. So that last song was called Walk into Paradise, and now the next one is called Caribbean Hide and Seek. Caribbean Hide and Seek. Yeah, that feels Caribbean-ish. Yeah. Just have to find the leather now. It's somewhere over there. All right, let's look at the stitching again. Size 11 embroidery needle going through 5 ounces of genuine elk hide. Totality of the stitching. So if you would be so kind as to let Roz type in first whether she feels it's a page 34. And she might even add first edition like her machine is. Folks, from my vantage point, that is, yeah. All right, let me turn it around. Let's look at that lock stitch. This will be a little bit tricky to get a clear picture of. A little bit tricky. You can actually see it better from a distance. All right, this is our lock stitch on Roz's first edition 301A. There's some stitching, we can actually see it. Hey! Yeah, it's got a nap on it. It definitely masks that, that stitch, so you have to really kind of squint to see it. All right, so totality of the stitching. The lock stitch on a single layer, 5 ounces of genuine elk hide. Let Roz type first if she feels it's a page 34 first edition. And then y'all can jump in as soon as you see her type her response in. Again, look at that top edge. I'm just going to change my shot a little bit to show you that top edge again. That's crazy thick, folks. That's crazy thick. Okay, so I'm going to throw that to the rear. That is a definite pass. And we'll move on to our next sew-off. I think we'll do probably a little bit more leather. I think we will. Yeah, there's something, it's so fun. It's kind of like Irish music, but when you hear Caribbean-style music, it just makes you feel happy, doesn't it? It's such a playful, fun music to listen to. I love it. I love it. I wish they had more of it on here, but I don't think they do. Okay, so Caribbean Hide and Seek. And now the next one is called, well, this is kind of a spooky one. This one is called Nightmares Inn. Nightmares Inn. Here we go. Something bad's going to happen. The butler did it. The butler did it. Why do they always blame the butler instead of the maid? I mean, assuming they have a maid. If they have a butler, they probably have a maid, right? Why don't they ever say the maid did it instead of the butler did it? What's that about? What is that about? Picking on the poor old butler. Okay, so now we're going to do a little bit of protected full grain leather. I'm going to do a single layer of it, and then I'm going to add a second layer to it, and we'll sew that off as well. So let me get this underneath the presser foot, and we're just going to do, you know what I'm going to do, because I've got this so wide, I'm going to cut it so I can use half of it for another sew off. Going to make it a little bit thin, but that's okay. I may not be real good at making turns, but I can sew a straight line most days. Let's see. Sew that one actually. Okay, so we're going to do a single layer. So I'm going to offset this a little bit so we're going down the left side of the material. And we will add a second layer to it. And protected full grain leather, I've talked about it quite a bit on this channel. It is a tricky material as well. It's real slippery. It tends to really test the feed dogs and the feed factor of the machine, and even a single layer. If I kind of zoom in on it, look at the side of that. You're looking at about 3 to 4 ounces of leather, protected full grain leather. So this stuff is like sewing, I'll just say it, it's like sewing a light grade of patio blocks, because it's real tricky stuff. It's slippery. The density and the pierce factor is way through the roof on it. And again, we're using a size 11 European size 75 embroidery needle during this premiere. So let's see how Roz's machine does against really a super hard task like this. But I like super hard because then it really tests the machine, don't you? All right, here we go. Oh, let me turn my screen around. There we go. Here we go. All right. Boy, that feeds so nice. That feeds so nice. All right, let me go ahead and cut this. You can already get a glimpse of those stitches, which are absolutely bang on. Spot on stitches. Beautiful stitches. This is some of that nasty leather that leaves little droppings all over Roz's machine. Let me just kind of drag it across a little bit. Folks, wow. Let me clip my threads first. I don't make it more difficult than it has to be. Okay, and that worked out perfectly with the music ending as well. So I'm just going to show you again, just kind of give you a pre-glimpse. That's our top stitch. And I dropped it. Hold on. Beautiful stitching. Page 34 for sure. I'm just going to say it. Get my other little thread over here. Look at that lock stitch as well, because once we put these together, that's going to be really tough to see though. I'll do my best to bring it across, because we're dealing with a light thread, and the nap on the back of this protected full grain leather is quite light as well. But those are gorgeous lock stitches as well. Okay, and I won't ask you page 34 on that one, because that one is kind of tough to see. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to marry these two pieces together. We've got our first row of top stitching we just did, and now we're going to sew through 2 layers of this protected full grain leather, which kind of show you from the side. That's what we're going to be going through now. So right around probably about 6 to 8 ounces of protected full grain leather. All right, let me line these up as best as I can. And obviously on the back side we'll only have 1 row of stitching for our lock stitch, because we're adding that second layer now. And again, we're using an embroidery style needle. I just have to hammer that home, because when you're looking at doing embroidery sewing, you're not anticipating generally sewing 6 to 8 ounces of protected full grain leather. But I've got a lot of confidence in my work on this machine, and I know, number one, the machine can do it very easily. But will this embroidery needle stand up to a task like this? Time will tell. Here we go. Just get my take-up arm all the way up. All right, here we go. Woo! I was holding my breath on that one, folks. I'm just going to be honest with you. I was holding my breath on that one. Not even a challenge for this 301A. Not even a challenge for this 301A, but probably quite a bit of a challenge for that needle, I can only imagine. So I'm going to show you first of all the top stitch. Even before I clip the threads, you can see our threads right there on this top row that we just sewed. Again, through 2 layers of protected full grain leather. And again, Roz's 301A laid down what I would consider to be page 34 stitches. That top row again is the second one that we just did through 2 layers of protected full grain leather. The bottom row is the first row we did through a single layer of protected full grain leather. Both rows of that top stitch are absolutely page 34 in my judgment. So I'm going to clip those threads now finally, and we'll flip this over and look at that lock stitch. And thankfully, because we're dealing with not the nap side, we're dealing with the finish side now, the top side of the leather, we can actually see that stitch very, very easily. And I'm not even going to pull out our stitch confirmation holder thingy. I'm just going to bring it across the camera like this in front of the needle so you can see it. So this is again our lock stitch going through 2 layers of protected full grain leather. Here we go. That is some beautiful stitching, folks. I hope you can see that in the camera. I hope you can see that in the camera. Absolutely a pass. Wow. And that again is what we just sewed through. 2 layers of protected full grain leather. It's not going to be quite as thick. You can look at it from the side here. It's not going to be quite as thick as if, say, we took 2 layers of genuine elk hide, but that is no easy task for any machine, let alone a machine that's sewing with an embroidery needle, size 11. I'll just say it. You know what I mean? If I had a leather needle in there, man, oh man, I wouldn't even have any inhibition about it at all. But we are trying to take a screwdriver and using it like a hammer right now. It's basically what we're doing. But hey, it's fun. That's my playroom side. So you can see what we just went through, and that is a definite pass. That's our lock stitch again. Those are our top stitches. Yeah, page 34, no doubt. All right, let me throw that to the back as well. I might start using embroidery needles more. They're pretty impressive with what it's doing so far. We're not done yet, but that's pretty doggone impressive. Pretty doggone impressive. All right, so what do I have next? I've got, and this is some of my airplane style leather that's used in these private Lear jets from this source that I have. And you can see a single layer of it is going to be the equivalent of probably almost at that elk hide level. Let me bring it down a little bit. Probably about 4 ounces. I wish you could smell this stuff. I wish we had smell-o-vision. Oh, gosh, it smells so good. It just does. Oh, my gosh, it smells so good. Particularly this one, maybe because they dyed it blue. Maybe it's the dye that I'm smelling. But, oh, my gosh, I could sniff this stuff all day long. So this is Italian leather again. I just got to sniff it. Oh, golly. Anyone else like sniffing leather? Tell me I'm not alone. Type in the chat if when you walk into a leather store, or if you were to walk into our friend Dusty's workshop in Colorado, where he does all of that cool leather work, and he does a lot of veg tan type leather work. He loves his vegetable tan leather, and that's got a beautiful aroma as well. But if you were to walk into Dusty's workshop, or if you walk into this workshop and I let you sniff some of this leather, is it something that, I mean, it's almost as good as Oreos? It's not as good as Oreos. No way. Won't buy it. Don't type in the chat that smelling leather is as good as Oreos. I'll never believe it. But if you just love the smell of leather, type in the chat you love the smell of leather so that I don't feel like I'm alone here. Seriously. So let's go ahead and do something similar with this. I just have such a huge piece, I don't want to waste it. Let me cut this down a little bit. Again, I get this stuff as kind of what they consider their scraps, but it's still not, it's not cheap stuff to buy, folks. It's not cheap stuff at all. So this will give me a little bit more playroom here. So I'm going to use that piece right there. We're going to kind of go down and around and around and around and around. Again, I want to test the maneuverability of Roz's 301A as well. Not just that it's a strong machine, not just that it's drop dead gorgeous, but if she's doing some tight cornering and doing some quilting type work that requires a lot of control, a lot of maneuverability, will this machine get the job done? Well, I've already demonstrated it sort of with my makeshift sew off of that lighter grade material. Remember we did that light grade material that kind of puckered up on me? And I did around and around and around and around and around. Now we're going to try to do the same thing on this Italian leather. And I need music to do this by. I just do. What is this next song? So this next song is called Empire Seasons. Let me put this on. I'm going to get a drink of water and let's see how Roz's machine does with this from a maneuverability standpoint and even from a piercing standpoint, because we're talking about 3 to 4 ounces of Italian leather here. Oh, come on. That's not Italian leather music. I feel like I'm taking a nap, for goodness sakes. Get me my cookies and my blankie. Let's try Russian River. I'm going to skip one ahead. Russian River. Not like rushing like fast, but Russian like the country, Russia. Oh, come on. Give me something peppy. All right, we're going to stick with Russian River, hoping that it picks up a little bit. Otherwise, I might nod off during the sew-off. It's possible. All right, another drink of water. All right, let's try maneuverability now on this single layer of Italian leather. Here we go. Get my take-up arm all the way up. So here, Roz, we're going to test the strength of the machine. We're going to test the, obviously, the piercing threshold capacity of the machine, but also maneuverability. So I'm not going to make anybody dizzy. I'm going to go around and around and around. So eat some ginger right now to help you with your motion sickness if you have that issue. Here we go. Ah! I thought I'd make my turn. I ran out of room. Dag nabbit. All right, I got to lift the presser foot and sheet, so we're going to have a weird thing on the end there. I wasn't pulling that leather quite hard enough. I should have pulled a little bit harder. All right, down and around. I'll pull harder this time, hopefully. Good thing we don't have a roller foot on here. That would really make it challenging. All right, I'm going to cheat here, make my turn. There we go. All right, down to the finish. We've gone around enough times. All right, well done. I actually did better on that one. Maybe because I didn't eat any Oreos today. Oh my goodness, that is some gorgeous stitching. That is some gorgeous stitching. Again, through about 4 ounces of Italian leather is what this stuff is. And Italian leather is, I wouldn't quite say it's as difficult to get through as protected full grain leather, but it's not easy stuff. I would say Italian leather can actually be a little bit more challenging than getting through genuine cowhide. I really would. All right, we got some sort of weird thread thing going on here. There we go. Let's pull that back through. What I did is I sewed over my thread a little bit. All right, let's bring that around. Wow. Even on my little weird turn thing where I had to lift the presser foot up, all in all, from my standpoint as a user, I did a pretty good job on this one, especially on the inner box. The inner box looks pretty doggone spot on. All right, so let me bend that a little bit. Do my best to get this lined up on the camera. Yeah, let's see, we'll put that right there. There we go. All right, so let me zoom in on that. I'll pick out a little bit more music. So that was Russian Rivers, which was really boring. And now we're going to try Dull Scenes. Dull Scenes. Here we go. This is Dull Scenes. Yeah, I like this one. All right, let's take a look at these stitches. Again, a single layer of Italian leather. Yeah, that's my little weird turning there, but actually looking at 2 rows at the same, 3 rows at the same time. Gorgeous stitching, gorgeous stitching. Yeah, that was my little, ignore that one. That was my little weird corner where I ran out of room and I lifted up the presser foot. But you know what? Look at the edge of that. It gives you an idea of the thickness of this Italian leather that we just went through. Beautiful stitching. So let me pause right there on the bottom. If you feel that this is a page 34 stitch, if I stop moving, go and type it in the chat, Roz, and then once you see Roz, type it in. One of y'all or all of y'all that feel that it's also page 34 can jump in and type page 34. I think we're looking at some spectacular stitching, again with an embroidery needle that's gotten a lot of use. A lot of use. And we're going through about 4 ounces of Italian leather. Pause up here too. All 3 rows. Let's look at the totality of the stitching. That is some gorgeous stitching, folks. I'm actually going to lower my camera a little bit. I can see now that I'm quite a bit higher than I normally am. That's making it a little bit harder to see some of these as well, maybe. So this again is our top stitch. About 4 ounces of Italian leather. Let's turn it over and look at the lock stitch. Get this to lay down. Be nice, leather, be nice. Okay, don't have the perfect angle. We'll do our best to see the lock stitching, which we can kind of see it there towards the middle and towards the top. Folks, that is some spot-on stitching. Some beautiful, beautiful stitching on the part of this 301A. Trying to follow wherever I can see stitching because, you know, with this nap, it's not a super heavy nap, but it's heavy enough that it kind of masks that stitch. Now let's kind of come out a little bit. We'll kind of look at that middle section. all 3 rows. Folks, again, embroidery needle, size 11, size 75 European. After all the sewing, both off camera and on camera, 4 ounces of Italian leather after we've already gone through elk hide, after we've already gone through protected full grain leather, after we've already gone through denim, and the list goes on. I am incredibly impressed. I'm impressed with my work on the machine because of the process that I go through. That's a given when you bring a machine to this workshop. But I'm also impressed with this size 11, size 75 European embroidery style needle. It's doing a heck of a job. It's doing a heck of a job. I usually go with minimum size 90, usually a size 100, especially when you're talking about sewing leather, multiple layers, because it's got to suck that thread back up through the leather, and you got to punch a big enough hole to do that. Even if you're using a universal style needle, that's not going to cut it quite as well as, say, a leather needle would, with the special scarf design in that leather needles have, and also the end of the needle itself. But this embroidery needle, and I didn't say, but it's pretty much a given. Yes, it's made by Schmetz. Yeah. Y'all reach out to Schmetz and tell them I'm ready to do a testimonial for him, okay? I am. So, single layer of this Italian style leather, absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. Beautiful stitching on the part of this 301A. So I'm going to throw that to the back as well as a definite pass. And so far, and I'm not going to be doing as big of a sew-off sandwich this time with this particular machine, just because I didn't cut that much material. But nonetheless, kind of grouping it together. This is our sew-off sandwich. Let me come out of this shot. This is our sew-off sandwich so far, on camera. And then I already did a couple of sew-offs with vegan-style leather off camera as well. And this 301A, the first edition 301A from 1953, has not missed a beat. Not even once. Which I would not have been shocked by that. Amazing. 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 Raj, you got a treasure here, kiddo. You got a treasure. An heirloom museum quality treasure. Not only does she look gorgeous, but she can sew the socks off of any other machine out there. I'll tell you that right now. Even tube socks. Yeah, I could do tube socks too. No doubt. Okay. So let's pick out another tune. We got one sew-off left, folks. We've got to do some upholstery material, commercial upholstery material, and I'm going to put on Mika. Mika is the next song. Yeah, this is kind of a country style song. We're just kind of moseying it along, not in any hurry. Dogs on the porch. Just had National Puppy Day. The dogs on the porch got that big pitcher of lemonade or sun tea. I'll drink either one of them, whichever one you want to make. I'm cool. I'm totally cool with it. So we're just kind of moseying along, and we're going to mosey along now to some upholstery material. Kind of see it right over there. You've seen me sew this stuff before, and it is built for durability. Even just a single layer of it, but we're not going to do a single layer. Nah. Why would we? You'd be on the wrong channel if you saw a single layer. And by the way, I should mention something. I just mentioned the word channel. Let me ask for your help with something. I got a private note from a gentleman that runs another YouTube channel, and many of you know him. Many of you have mentioned that you follow his work as well, and he does some fabulous work. He's known as Andy Tube, T-U-B-E, Andy Tube. And Andy reached out to me by email just very recently, a couple days ago, and he said, Scott, you may not be aware of it, but I've been out of commission. I haven't been able to do any work really for about a year. And because I respect your work so much, I've been pushing people your way. I hope that's okay. And I said, of course it is. I'm honored by that. He said, I really He said, I've been following you for a while, Scott, and I really admire your work. You have a standard that's off the charts. And so I felt very comfortable in sending people your way. And the feedback I got from people that came to you was just, wow, we love this guy. We love Andy Tube, but we also love this new guy that we just met through Andy Tube, this Scott guy out of Wisconsin. So, but what I'm going to ask you all to do is, would you please, through your thoughts and through your prayers, keep Andy in mind. There's only so many of us left that do what we do to the standard that I would say that Andy does his work as well. And so I'd like you to please pray for Andy Tube, that he can regain his health and can get back to doing what he does so well. If I were to make a referral, which I seldom do, because there are so few people out there that do the level of work that I do, I would not hesitate to send somebody to Andy Tube. But he's not able to do his work right now for almost a year now. So please pray for him. And again, I just consider it a great honor that he felt highly enough about me that he would take his own customers and send them my way. So Andy, if you happen to, as you're recovering, as you're trying to get your strength back, as you're trying to get back on your feet and get back to doing what you love, if you happen to watch this premiere, because you said you watch pretty much all my premieres, know that we're praying for you, my friend. Know that we're lifting you up, and that we want to see you get back to doing what you do so well. And if I ever fall into that state where I can't do work, I'm going to pay it forward by anyone that reaches out to me, sending them your way. I hope that's okay as soon as you get back on your feet, okay? All right, so y'all keep Andy Tube in mind. If you've never heard of Andy Tube before, Google it. Andy is a guy after my own heart that really takes his business seriously. Not as good of a dancer as I am, I'm just going to say it. But his work, his old school approach to trying to do what he does to a standard that far surpasses what most other people in our circle, in our space do. Yeah, Andy is a kindred spirit. So y'all, if you know what, let's just do it right now. Type in the chat if you know who Andy Tube is, Tube. If you followed his work, if you admire his work, if you respect his work as I do, and you're going to commit to keeping him in thought and prayer, type that in the chat right now. Yep, I know who Andy is. Yep, I'm going to keep him in thought and prayer. Do that right now in the chat. Would you please step out of the shadows and do that, so that Andy knows that you care, and Andy knows that you already respect what he does, which he hasn't been able to do it for almost a year now, folks. So we got to get him back on his feet, get him back doing what he does so well. So there's at least 2 of us left in the world that are doing it, for goodness sakes. Well, along with my friend over in the United Kingdom, Alex Askroff. And Alex, if I'm saying your last name wrong, please forgive me for that. But I respect Alex's work as well. He is a pioneer of what we do. And I'm hoping to travel over to the United Kingdom sometime in the near future and have a chance to meet him and to shake his hand and to tell him thanks for doing what you do. There's so few of us left in the world that do it the way we do it, like the Alexes over in the United Kingdom, the Andy Tubes, the Scotts in Wisconsin. There's not many of us left. So keep us all in prayer. Keep us all in prayer that we can either return to good health, which is what we're hoping for Andy, or preserve our health like for Alex and myself. So thank you for doing that. Thank you so much. All right, another song, and then we're going to do this final sew-off on this commercial-grade upholstery material. Let's see here. The next one is called Highway 1. Highway 1. You know what? I'm going to totally change it up on this last sew-off. Bear with me for a second. Any of you that followed the fundraiser for the History Museum know that I mentioned Mary from Washington State several times, and she was the one that didn't want, as cool as she thought it was, she didn't want a 106-year-old brick from the Singer Cabinet Factory in South Bend, Indiana. She wanted a brick of sharp cheddar cheese from Wisconsin, which I already purchased for her, and I'm going to be shipping it either today or tomorrow to her out in Washington State. But during some of my little mini clips, and some of you have really enjoyed seeing on Facebook, where I'm in the workshop, I'm doing different things, and I got tunes playing. Could be anything from big band to who knows what I got playing, you know, rock. But she mentioned in one of her posts, and I love when people step out of the shadows and respond to what I'm posting, so I know that they're there. I know that they appreciate me taking time to do that, and they're giving me some good feedback on what I'm doing. Which, I mean, it's like fuel in the tank. It really is. So thank you to all of you that do that. But I remember Mary saying, my thing is hip hop. I like hip hop. So I'm going to put on this final piece during Roz's premiere, and I'm sure it's okay with Roz. I'm going to put on some hip hop to honor the incredible generosity that Mary showed through that fundraiser to help out our friends at the History Museum in South Bend, Indiana. Yes, I'm going to do that right now. All right, let me see what I got here. I'm gonna click through a couple of these. When I find one I like, I'm going to go with it. I don't like that one. Yeah, I'm going to go with this one. This one is called Piano Trap Beethoven. Piano Trap Beethoven. Hip hop for my friend Mary out of the great state of Washington State. Used to be from Oregon. Now she's from Washington State. Yes, she is. Here it is. Yeah. Come on, give me some piano trap. Give it to me. Yeah, come on. Yeah. All right, upholstery material on a very tired size 11, size 75 European embroidery needle. I've got this commercial grade upholstery material, commercial grade, 2 layers, 4 layers, 6 layers. I can't help myself, folks. I can't help myself. There it is right there. I hope I didn't bite off more than I can chew with a very tired size 11, size 75 European embroidery needle. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Down and around. Boy, that's going to barely make it underneath the presser foot. And the 301A does not come with a hyperextension, so what we have is what we have. All right, here we go. Off camera, I bumped up that presser foot pressure just a little bit. I may have to reduce this, or I may have to switch out the needle. If we break the needle, if we skip stitches, I'm going to put a brand new needle in and we're going to finish this off. Yes, we are. I'm ringing the bell. I'm so excited about this hip-hop music. Yeah, class isn't over. Don't get up. All right, let's see what happens. Here we go. Yeah. Come on, 301A. I know you're tired. I know you're tired. Not the machine, the needle. I know the needle is tired. Come on, we got this. We got this. We got this. We got this. Come on. I am not going to close the box. We're going to go down to the finish and get this done. Get her done. Here we go. Oh, that worked out nicely. You hear a little silent part in the music, almost out of respect. It went silent. It went silent out of respect for what this 301A is doing after all it's already done, and considering the needle that we're using in it. The music just went silent, like, wow. Wow! Yeah, it did. That's what I heard anyway. Yeah, I did. All right, let's close the box. Let's close the box for our box closers. Let's do it. Let's just do it. Here we go. Yeah. Yeah. Woo! Roz, you're going to have so much fun with this 301A. Oh my goodness gravy. Yes, you are. La 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 la. Yeah, Mr. Bean, you go ahead and dance, buddy. You got a reason to dance. Yeah. Yeah, there's our little silent part again right there. Folks, look at what we just sewed. I don't even know how to show this to you. It's just crazy. Look at that. 6 layers of commercial grade upholstery material after sewing genuine elk hide, protected full grain leather, vegan leather, Italian leather, denim. I don't even remember all this stuff we sewed. We sewed a ton of stuff, plus off camera as well. And this little itty bitty embroidery needle, size 75 European, size 11 USA. It just kicked it. It just kicked it. Yeah, it did. Yeah. Now let's take a look at the stitching. Oh my gosh, this stitching is beautiful. This stitching is beautiful. All right, let me get my little stitch holder thingy that my friend Maddie sent me from Florida. And we're going to take a look at these stitches right now. Trying to decide how I want to set them up here. Wow. I've always been a fan of Schmetz. You all know that. But I'll tell you one thing. I got respect now for any of those folks that are buying those embroidery needles, size 75, size 11 USA. I'll tell you one thing. I'm going to pick up a little box of those the next time I'm out and about. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. All right, so let's start right down on the left side over here. I am already seeing page 34, folks. Even on that little snippet on the bottom there, I'm seeing page 34. Let's walk around and take a look. It's my little weird turn. Just forgive that little turn there. Look at that stitching right there. My little turn going down. Yeah, there's my little turn going down. Page 30. Look at on the corner there too. Page 34. Across the bottom. All right, let Roz do it first. Totality of the stitching. I'll try not to come out too far because this material will make you go blind. This is really tough material to focus on. But Roz, if you feel that this top stitch is a page 34, go ahead and type that in the chat. Once you see Roz type it in there, jump in right behind her. If you feel as well that it's page 34, I certainly do, then go ahead and do that. I'm going to pick out one more tune, hip-hop style, for our friend Mary out in Washington State. This next one is called Brooklyn and the Bridge. You always hear about Brooklyn Bridge, but you never hear people say it that way. Brooklyn and the Bridge. Yeah, why doesn't Brooklyn get some credit too? Yeah, give Brooklyn some credit. Yo, give Brooklyn some credit. Yo, yo, yeah, 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 yeah. All right, let's turn around and look at that lock stitch. Brooklyn. We are the Brooklyn, and we lead the way. If you're not standing with us, get out of our way. We're Brooklyn, yo, Brooklyn, yo. I better give up the rap. Yeah. Wasn't bad. It was pretty horrible, yeah. All right, so now we're gonna look at that lock stitch. Absolutely gorgeous. Wow. Wow. An embroidery needle, size 11, size 75 European, pulling up this Coats & Clark thread through 6 layers of commercial upholstery material and not missing a beat. I would not have been shocked to see skip stitches. Not even remotely shocked after all we've done to this needle. This little itty bitty size 11 needle. There's our totality of the stitching. We walked around it. All right, give Roz a chance, would you? Roz, if you feel this is worthy of a page 34, type it in the chat. Everybody else jump in behind Roz. Holy mackerel. Goody gumdrops. Galloping gravy. Batman. Wow. 6 layers of upholstery material, folks. That's just a little bit of crazy. All right. I'm going to change the shot a little bit. We're going to walk through the materials that we sewed through just to remind you of what we put this embroidery needle through. I'll kind of come out on the shot a little bit. That was a fun song, wasn't it? If you think New York people just have a certain type of cool, type it in the chat. That was called Brooklyn and the Bridge. So we're talking about New York. So if you just think that New York people have a certain type of cool, type it in the chat. And I know a number of you are formerly from New York, so you're a little bit biased, but hey, you know, it's a question. So type it in the chat. If you think Brooklyn people just have a certain type of cool, I do. I totally do. And when I was out at the academy, I traveled into the great city of New York on many occasions, and I just thought they had a certain type of cool. Yes, they do. All right. I'm almost hesitant to throw this on the bed of this machine. I might hear Roz shriek or something, but anyway, let me change the shot. We'll kind of throw it there in front of the machine. Oh, you can see it. Okay, we're good. So there's our 6 layers of upholstery material. These are not in order. All right. Here's my weak attempt to sew in a circle. Yeah. But it showed really good maneuverability and great stitch quality on the part of Roz's machine. We did, what is this? Italian leather. We did this Italian leather. Had to think about it for a second there. Single layer, about 4 ounces. Genuine elk hide. Y'all have seen this a lot on the channel. It is crazy. Protected full grain leather. 2 layers of that. 2 layers of that. Vegan style leather. Again, leather vinyl mix. 4 layers of heavy grade denim. And then of course our 6 layers of upholstery material. So our sew-off sandwich is this, live on the premiere today. And this is where I say I do it differently. When I'm premiering a machine, it's a celebration, but it's also a confirmation that you can put a machine like this through all of this using a size 11 European size 75 embroidery needle. And it does all of this to absolute perfection. Absolute perfection. I mean, I don't know of anyone else in the world that does it this way to show that customer before they even touch the machine. This machine is ready to get, let me leave these out front. This machine is ready to get the job done. I don't just say it. I don't just go on my reputation, which I've got a great reputation worldwide. Every single machine that's going to leave this workshop, unless the customer has a certain expectation of getting it back and they say, I don't want it premiered, I want it back right away. Most every machine is premiered as a celebration and as a confirmation that that machine is ready to get the job done when it leaves the workshop. And that's what we've done today in this premiere. We've celebrated taking a machine like this through a major transformation, like the phoenix coming out of the ashes. I mean, it was, you saw, it was rough. It was rough. Rust, varnishing, dull as a penny getting run over by a locomotive. I don't know if that would be dull or just smashed, but at any rate, whatever it would be, it wasn't anything to turn ahead. And now, not only will it turn ahead because of how drop dead gorgeous the machine is, but it will turn ahead because of this. This right here. Whatever Roz decides to sew, she's a quilter. She's a 4th generation quilter. But she might decide to sew some other materials of a diverse field like this. And what we've established in this premiere today, what we've confirmed, what we've proven, is that this 301A says, bring it on. Bring it on! I gotta play Brooklyn Bridge one more time. Brooklyn and the Bridge, because it's just yo. It's yo! Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, this machine just says, yo, just bring it on. Just bring it on. Brooklyn style. Brooklyn style, yeah. So with that, I'm going to ring the bell. And we're just going to enjoy the rest of this song. Class is over. All right, any of you that want to get up and stretch your legs and do a little bit of dancing with me? Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Yeah. We're going to dance. I didn't walk you around Roz's machine. Okay, sorry about that. All right, let's do it real quick. There's the tensioner for winding a bobbin. Yep, there it is. And there's a little spool that you put the bobbin on right there. Then you go up this and you rotate it, then you go over there. This is stitch length, all the way from 6 all the way down to 30. Go all the way to the top, you go in reverse. This is the upper tension. That was really gross, and now it's nice and clean, and it does a great job, as you saw. Yeah, it does. And what else are we going to do? Yeah, I'll show you the feed dog drop real quick. I just wanted to Brooklyn it. I just wanted to like do some dancing, but hey, maybe we still have time for that. So if you look underneath the bed over here, yeah, let's just look at the bed first. Yeah. Wow. I got to do it. Dr. Singer, come on over here, sir. Please. You just got to do this just for fun. There you are. Ha ha ha! All right. So if we lift the bed, sorry, Dr. Singer, I got to move you back a little bit, sir. Sorry. We lift the bed up. Right over here. Right over here is the feed dog drop. Just turn it, the feed dogs drop, you turn it back the other way, and they pop back up. And I can see that in all the preparation to get ready for this premiere today, the boys did not dust this area off underneath there. Look at all the dust from it going through the processes that it has. You could actually write her name in that. There's pretty good. All right, Roz, I'm going to dust this off for you before I send it off, kiddo. Guys, you totally slipped up on that. What's up? Let's put it back down quick so people don't see that. Yeah. All right. Well, Roz, it's been a privilege and an honor to get this 301A. Number one, to source it for you as a first edition 301A, as an original owner 301A, and to take it through all the phases that I did to get it to the point that it is today. Not only from a standpoint of how it looks, but also how it sews. I think that those have to go hand in hand when you're looking at a machine that's going to be an heirloom piece for a family like Roz's family. Wonderful family out in the great state of Michigan. I want it to not just look good, I want it to be able to sew just as well. And that's what we've shown in this premiere today. So class is officially dismissed. And now I'm going to end again with my same Brooklyn tune because I'm loving it. Yes, it is. All right. Y'all take care. And that's it. That's all I got for you. Okay, Dr. Singer. Yes, we can end with the lights again. I hear you. I totally hear you. If I can find the plug, we can end with the lights. If I cannot knock over the tripod, we'll end with the lights. Okay, I'll move so you can see the machine. Thanks for watching. Remember to click subscribe. And remember Andy Tube in your thoughts and prayers. Take care. God bless.